the Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Yeah.
Which we have, with the exception of a little bit of art, it's been over a year since we've heard anything about.
Yeah.
But there is some progress.
I mean, the last time that, they released some information, it had been well over a year since then.
Yeah.
How long have they been doing this?
Well, I mean, it's been... I want to say it was announced back in September of 2015.
But has been rumored since, 2010?
Oh, gosh.
Since Advent Children, basically.
No, the rumors started up all when Sony showed off that tech demo for the PlayStation 3 back in 2006.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, you need to make this game now. And so, in typical Square Enix fashion, we'll wait 9 years.
We want to make sure that we release a Final Fantasy that's better than Final Fantasy VII before we remake it, because our franchise isn't. It didn't peak at Final Fantasy VII. We're still in this.
No, it peaked at Final Fantasy VII.
It pretty much did.
I mean, and I don't, 15 is a great game based on what I played from it. It's been well reviewed. It deserves all the praise that it gets. But 7, man.
Do you know what I liked about Final Fantasy 9? Is they actually they revamped an old system of ability level ups and armor and weaponry. Mm-hmm. Their old mechanics and how they worked it before. They just tweaked that and modernized it to that specific year,
Yeah.
Updated it.
Yeah.
But ever since Final Fantasy X, every release is a revolutionary new system. And it's always completely different. Now you've got to learn something else. It's like, bring back materia. And heck, I'd take draw system again too, because if you were to tweak that properly, it would be very interesting.
Yeah.
But the fact that every single time that they release Final Fantasy, it's just literally walking through a movie.
It's reinventing the wheel.
Yeah, you're walking through a movie, trying to figure out how this thing works.
So you think they should go back to more gameplay focused instead of story focused?
Yeah. Because Final Fantasy VII was huge on gameplay. Yes, it was awesome summoning things and watching, the graphics on it because it was revolutionary. Yeah, the cutscenes were great, but I mean, as far as cutscenes go, those are integrated with the actual in-game action. Mm-hmm. You don't have much, difference between it now as far as that. It doesn't have to be a movie with this choppy game in between the scenes.
Although I think that's probably what the remake is going to be more like.
Yeah, well, of course,
because it's got to fit modern notions of gameplay.
Yeah.
So the update that we've received, and this probably only applies to the Japanese version of the game, but the voice acting for it is nearly complete. Now that may just seem like, okay, that seems like step 1 is complete, because if you know anything about as far as CG filmmaking or animation filmmaking, that's normally the first thing you do. When you see a film come out that's been animated, chances are the recording was done 3 years ago, so long ago, certain actors are wow, I forgot I even did the voice for that at this point.
Always step 1.
But apparently, when it comes to video games, the voice acting is some of the last stuff that they do, which I just found out this week. So that's encouraging.
Yeah, but that's counterintuitive.
You would think so. I mean,
because they have to then go and backtrack to animate the mouths, I guess.
Right, but they do. And I know that they animate faces separately from. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Most of the time. Yeah. I would say within the last few years, we've started basically doing the whole animation, as far as they're doing the mocap at the same time, capturing all of the facial animation too.
Then again, you know what would make sense to it is you got to think about the various paths you can take with a video game. If you're gonna have something like let's take when they go to I can never remember the name of that city. Yeah, where he cross dresses, Cloud crosses.
Wall Market
Walmart.
in
Wall
Midgar.
Market. Think about how many different results you can get for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then think about having to script it and record the voices for each one.
Right.
You're going to want to make sure that you've got each path completed as far as the game design goes before you start doing the otherwise you don't even know what you're going to actually keep in the end.
Right. And here's what, now they say that the game is going to be fully voiced. I want them to mean it, because we've been I've been exposing Kristen to like the Kingdom Hearts universe by basically having her watch the cutscenes on YouTube. Yeah. Like we'll watch that right now because we ran out of stuff to watch on Netflix. But but so we're watching that, and there's scenes that of course don't have dialogue recorded. It's still the speech bubbles. And voice acting used to be like when you got a scene with voice acting, it's like, oh, this is really special. Once we got voice acting as a regular thing in gaming, I want to say
Final Fantasy X awkward laugh.
There's a story behind that.
I know.
But with as far as voice acting, we used to have only certain scenes would get voice acting, and it made you appreciate it more. But I want to see Square start doing that with everything. I don't want if you're putting up a speech bubble, there better be a voice going along reading that too, because I don't know, I'm so I used to like it, but when you go back and you read it, it's am I supposed to be watching this or am I supposed to be reading it? It's kind of and it's really unrealistic when you have a character be doing they'll say okay.
Yeah.
And they'll just get stuck into this talking animation, but they said one thing, and it's oh well, you haven't hit X yet to go to the next one. It's that kind of gamey stuff breaks the immersion. If you want to make it more immersive, just have everyone say everything. We have the space on the discs now. We've had it for years. Just do it.
Now, one of my favorite voice actors, I am not one to name names because I'm just terrible at it, so I'm not even going to do it.
I may know if you tell me their characters that they do.
My favorite cartoon character, two of my favorite cartoon characters, Bender from Futurama and Jake the dog from Adventure Time.
That's John DiMaggio.
John DiMaggio. When he did Gears of War.
As Phoenix.
Yeah, he said that the amount of time that it took him with all the different, he had to scream out the same phrase many times so that they could take multiple of those and use them so that it felt natural instead of hearing the same sound every single time. He said that by the end of the sessions, 15-hour sessions, his voice was raw.
And video game voice acting is very intensive.
Yes.
They'll do a whole game over the span of a weekend.
Yeah. No, that's impossible.
He said that they did talking about Gears of War, he did it over a weekend. Yeah.
That if you get 4 hours of sleep, maybe that's crazy.
Yeah. Because they just don't stop.
Yeah. But the amount of time that it takes for each individual character, and that's just Gears of War. Gears of War, I mean, you're shooting and going through the entire time. There's not.
You're not even even talking about the cutscenes. You're talking about the grunts and the the cries of pain and now, there's a lot of stuff.
Let's also now moving from there to Final Fantasy. Let's think about how many characters Final Fantasy titles have. All right, Final Fantasy VII has got quite a few main characters in it. Yeah, and each one of them has to do the typical. In game, I stub my toe, kind of, sounds, and they have to do that many times over for each individual character. You're looking at hours upon hours upon hours upon hours, of just vocals for that, and then you've got the actual scripts that need to go through for the storyline as well.
Yeah.
How much money do you think that costs to pay all those voice actors to put this title together? It can only be done with something like Final Fantasy VII, where you know they're guaranteed to see a profit off of it. If you do that with another title, odds are they're not going to see much of a profit off of that. Like, that's got to be expensive.
Well, I mean, that's why you have now the industry has separated into your AAAs and also your indies. Whereas your indies, like, don't expect to see voice acting. Don't, it's very gameplay driven. AAA, your Assassin's Creed, your Call of Duties. Yeah, they're gonna be, Call of Duty gets like celebrities to do their acting now. Call
of Duty is its own beast. It's
so big.
Murder porn. It's got its own cult following of people that have to kill things.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying that's bad, because I think it's great the fact that
people have an outlet.
Yeah. The fact that
that's not actually hurting anyone.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's fantastic, And for people that advocate that violence in video games, increases it, no, because if you notice, since video games, there's been like a downward trend as far as like violent crimes and violent murders.
Well, okay. We've had violence for all of human history. We've had video games. Yeah. For about 4 decades.
Yeah.
It's
increasing violence. Yeah. I don't know. World War II was pretty violent, and they didn't have video games.
Pac-Man didn't start any revolutions.
Yeah. Obesity has gone through the roof since Pac-Man. We eat everything in sight.
I won't argue
Ironically
against that.
enough, fruit sales have gone down.
The thing about that, though, is like now... Grand Theft Auto, I have I know someone who is a manager at GameStop, and he will tell me, like, he'll just shake his head because it was like, you have no idea how many parents will try to justify buying like their 10, 9, 7, 6-year-old kid Grand Theft Auto, and like their kid will say something stupid like, oh, well, you don't have to do the bad stuff in the game, and they'll buy it. It's like, no, you have to do bad stuff to progress in the game. You play a criminal. Don't get this for your kid.
Who tortures people to progress the plot.
In GTA 5, there is a torture scene.
That's so dumb.
Yeah, and
I don't understand certain parents, man.
Yeah, like parents out there need to seriously get a hold of their kids. And I just because... that is an influence when, like, you definitely need to filter what your kids are exposed to. You're a parent.
Yeah.
You know that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it just seems like a no-brainer, yet there's a lot of parents that do that. I'll get off my soapbox about that. I just had to...
Oh, no. I mean, this is the forum to do it, and if you don't agree, leave a comment.
Yeah, or if you agree, leave a comment. Either way.
Yeah, both. Yeah, just leave a comment.
But back to Final Fantasy.
Yeah,
voice acting.
Final Fantasy.
We got a little bit of insight from producer Yoshinori Kitase. He said that specifically about Cloud's character, he said that Cloud will not sound as he does in Advent Children. And what he specifically said was, fans may have the image of the Cloud from Final Fantasy VII Advent Children, but since this is the prime Cloud from before Advent Children, the performance may feel fresh. And here's what... So every single time I talk to someone who doesn't like Cloud from Advent Children, because the Cloud, and granted, the Cloud in the game does seem very different from Advent Children. And if you play through the game, you understand why Cloud is so emo in Advent Children.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, but he's that way for a very good reason. Like, I won't spoil anything about the game, but Cloud goes through some, like, psychiatric stuff, like things that would, like, destroy a person's psyche.
Yeah.
And he comes through it. He's world weary in Advent Children.
Thanks, Tifa, for your journey in the live stream. We appreciate it.
That's enough to mess anyone up. But it's just he's world weary. He doesn't feel confident in Advent Children. That's natural, and I'm glad that he's like not gonna be. He's not going to be that way because it makes sense. This is an earlier version in his life.
Because he thinks he's Zack.
Yeah.
Which we won't go into details. If you know anything about Final Fantasy, you get it.
And when you think about how the live stream works and how they were both soaked in Mako, that makes a lot of sense. Like, people are just like, well, that's kind of dumb. He convinced himself that he's someone else. Well, when you really think about how live stream works, it's like just this huge collage of people's life experiences. It makes total sense that Zack's memories could have transferred over into Cloud.
And even if it didn't, I mean, like, oh, yeah, do you think anyone that's not believable? Let's take a look at multiple personalities to begin with, okay? Some traumatic happens to somebody, and they don't even see the effect until... like a decade later, until they're adults. Something, from your past has a way of breaking your psyche, and with that scar just being layer upon layer upon layer of personality traits that develop as you're, adult, all of a sudden the foundation snaps, and now, daddy thinks he's mommy, You see people where their gender swaps, they have a new name for themselves and a new backstory. Yeah. Like, that is something that's documented that actually does happen. So the idea that, this isn't so far-fetched, but let's also take in the fact that it's fantasy and live stream doesn't exist and Gaia doesn't,
But but the thing is, like, if you see, and this is, people criticize Kingdom Hearts are like, oh, the storyline is so fragmented, it's so confused. If you slow down to think about things,
Disneyland is fragmented and confusing.
But the thing is, like, just slow down and start to think about things. Like, I'm not saying you have to be like the game theorist and like have to, break down every little minor detail. Just think about how this might happen. Stop trying to put your perceptions of reality into a different reality. Yeah. Which is what, games are like. But yeah, what do you think about? And I don't think he means that like they're going to go with a different voice actor, because we did get that trailer last December of 2015, where you had Barrett and Cloud and I think Jesse, Biggs, and Wedge all voiced. Yeah. And you heard like English actors, and Cloud and Barrett are the same as they are in Advent Children. Yeah. Those voice actors. I want to say. Steve Barton does the voice of Cloud, and Barrett's just the same guy who does Jet in Cowboy Bebop.
So they're gonna, and that's
But I hope they keep them. Yeah. But just have I'm okay with like giving Cloud almost the same exact dialogue as he has in the PS1 original. Yeah. Where sometimes he's sarcastic, sometimes he can actually be humorous. He's a more normal character instead of just how he is in Advent Children, where he's like post-war Cloud. Yeah. Post-traumatic stress disorder Cloud. Yeah. That makes sense. But what do you think about that? Do you think that's a good idea to like go back to kind of match up the Cloud from the original game rather than just go with, well, let's stick with how he sounds in Advent Children?
Yeah, and like, are they keeping the same voice actor?
I hope so.
Because, they're coming out with a new Spider-Man movie. Mm-hmm. Are you going to see it?
No, definitely.
Yeah, it looks pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like the third voicing of Spider-Man?
Well, voicing, that's something else. But this is like the third live-action movie version.
Voicing
universe.
Wrong way to phrase that. But
portrayal, live-action movie portrayal.
But I still like Spider-Man. I'm still interested.
It's not gonna. Like whether you preferred Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire, did it affect the way you liked the character?
No,
it shouldn't.
It's just a different portrayal. So I mean, as far as like who voices it, like I don't care. Just do a good job. Like I see a lot of like the only thing that I don't like is George Clooney Batman. George Clooney Batman. I'm sorry, George. But although if I ever meet him, I'm gonna go, dude, I loved you in Batman.
I feel like he either takes roles that he's not challenged to act outside of what he's good at,
Yeah.
or because I haven't seen it, but I've heard like "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" He plays a very different character than you see him do other stuff.
And that was a great movie.
That was a standout role for him.
Fantastic movie. You should watch it. But as far as like going back to Final Fantasy, I mean, like, you know, how do I feel about them being purists and actually going back to the original story?
Such a bad idea, right?
Yeah, like, are people upset about that? Like, are people speaking out? Like, because
not from what I've seen. People are just more excited about progress of the game. Yeah. Are we going to get it this year or next year? That's what people are mostly focusing on.
Yeah.
But
as far as how do I feel about them taking the approach that, I mean, like you said, like, you know, we're going back in time to before the war.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like, and it's not. I don't feel like the producer's knocking Advent Children. I don't think he's agreeing with the people where they're just like, Cloud's just too emo. It's like, no, that's not why they're doing this.
That's like saying, like, post-Jesus, we're actually going to go back to the Old Testament, and we're going to revamp it to kind of fit more the mood of the New Testament. We're just going to rewrite the Bible so it's less gritty, more...
I'm trying to think if they have any references to biblical references, because they pull from all different kinds of...
For Final Fantasy?
Final Fantasy in general, yeah. Oh, yeah, Leviathan and Behemoth.
Yeah,
they pull those from the Bible. But yeah, I hope this does mean that we're gonna see. We're probably not gonna see this game till 2018 at the earliest, and they are gonna be episodic, which I'm okay. I've accepted it. I'm okay with it.
2035 at the latest.
I think 2018 at the earliest. Hopefully, maybe with E3 coming up in June, we'll get some more information. Yeah. Not just concept art. Please, like they had a golden opportunity. It was like the 20th anniversary of Final Fantasy VII, and what do they do when they could like talk about the game? Here's a piece of artwork, and it's like CG artwork. It's not it's so stupid. But
we're just gonna put this on fridge right here. Good job. Good
this
job.
Is what This is what you get for waiting over a year for more news.
Yeah.